Hello, hello, my green skins. And finally, the weather's broken enough that I can actually do these without a lot of noise in the background. So, hey, works for me. And we're going to be talking about the Citizen Kane, the Casablanca of all comic book movies, Batman 89. This is, if not the greatest superhero movie of all time. I don't care what people say about, oh, well, what about Superman? Superman. No, 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 no. Superman paved the way to creating the Citizen Kane of superhero movies. And if I hear anyone say Avengers Endgame, okay, yeah, okay, whatever. You go watch your stuff. I'm gonna watch the real superhero stuff. This is amazing for a movie, and I to this day am absolutely in love with how well this movie was done. This is lightning in a bottle. This is Ghostbusters 1. That's what this is. This is that pure lightning in a bottle. So let's start the breakdown with a little bit of a backstory with me in this movie. I'm not going to lie, me in this movie, there's some history behind this and a little bit for me because when I was a kid, there are very few movies I remember seeing with Daddy War Chief there, and this is one of them. And I went with Daddy War Chief, uh, Unky Ray War Chief, and we saw the movie together. And it was a good movie. Absolutely amazing. I saw this in theaters when I was 9. And I loved this movie. I loved it so much. I had all the toys. I went completely insane with this. And we got to talk about the history of this movie a little bit, just because we have to. This movie paved the way for everything else Batman. This movie was so impactful for the 80s. Even though this is like probably the last 80s movie, a little too impactful maybe, because I mean, this helped create the animated series, everything that happened that helped Warner Brothers expand DC movies, TV shows, cartoons. This changed comic books. Like, we can't deny how amazing this movie is on every level. This was the greatest of all time superhero movie. If this isn't in your top 10, I don't think you've ever seen a superhero movie when it comes to superhero movies, because this should be in your top 10. At least. This definitely should be in your top 10. It's one of those amazing movies that you just gotta go, wow. And it literally comes down to everything. You got your Danny Elfman score. Like, I'm going to get into that. And the acting. Let's talk about the acting. Let's actually break down the acting in this movie. I got to start off with Michael Keaton. Now, I didn't know this at the time. I didn't know until a little later. I remember people complaining about this guy playing Batman, Michael Keaton. And I was just a kid back then, so I didn't care. I was like, well, who's that? And looking at it as an adult now, again, I watch this movie at least every October. This is an October movie I watch anyway. But it's basically when you get into the fall season, I start watching this. Michael Keaton did such a good job, not only being a Batman that was menacing, and I know some of the shots where they did with his eyes and stuff, and they did these amazing shots of his eyes where you could sort of just, all you could see was his eyes and this pissed off look. And then the fact that he played a Bruce Wayne. Like, I honestly believe this to this day. He set the benchmark for Batman characters. This is why to this day I don't think Patterson... like, I know everyone liked the new Batman, but I look at him and I go, he's not a good Bruce Wayne, and he's barely a good Batman. Anyone can be a Batman, a menacing prick, okay? Like, that's not hard to be menacing and dangerous. You can turn anyone into that dark character. But Michael Keaton, he did the role so well that he really didn't have his career kind of bottomed out a little bit because of this role. Like, this was the most amazing role out there. And, then we have Jack frickin' Nicholson. Jack Nicholson is probably considered to this day the best Joker, bar none. Like, I have not, like, I've heard Keith Ledger gets thrown around a lot. And I hate to say it, as much as Keith Ledger is a cool Batman, and I still think he makes a good Batman Joker, but to me, he is not a... Okay, here's the thing. I look at it like this, okay? Cesar Romero is one of my favorite Jokers of all time. Jack Nicholson is fucking Joker, and he embodied that role. Keith at the end with his version of Joker, he was created by an amalgamation of every other Joker before that. So you can't really, to me, this was a person who became a full-out Joker. Now, I know a lot of people say, oh, he's just playing Jack Nicholson. But no, you know what? He really did play this crazy, crazy psychopath. And it's just absolutely amazing. You got Kim Basinger, and she did a good job. You got Robert Wolf, who's her little plucky sidekick as a reporter. He did a good job. You got Billy D. Williams, unfortunately didn't do that much, but... I keep hearing about the mythical third movie where he becomes Two-Face. I would have been all for that. And this list keeps going and going. You got, like, although he dies almost right away, you got frickin' Jack Palance later on. Like, shit, like, this is a fucking cast, guys. This is one of the best casts on... This is an amazing cast. Probably one of the best casts of all time for a movie like this. And Michael Keaton, surprisingly, even though he's more leaner of a Batman, like, I still think, we need a more buffer Batman. He still had a good look to him, and he still had a build to him that at least looked good. I kind of liked him. So next, let's get into the music. This is going to be simple. Best score from Danny Elfman. By far. This is the best score, and it's amazing. And it's done so well for every scene. This is just epic. It blows my mind that people haven't heard this score. Like, there's a generation out there of new kids that have not watched this Batman movie. I think this should be a must-watch movie of all time. Let's get to the directing and the sci-fi. Yeah, I'm putting the story at the last bit because I'm going to be kind of gushing over that one. So, you have a director wanting to make his chops. You have some of the greatest music in movie history. You have a star-studded cast. How do you not get amazing directing in this? And the direction in this movie is so freaking good. Absolutely and utterly stunning music. The best out there. Bar none. Pretty much, what else can I say? This has some of the best scene work. Some of the best movement work out there. One of my best scenes there is the shot when they have the guy... the Joker realizes the bad guys are going to betray him. And you start seeing all these mimes slowly coming in. They start dancing into the crowd. As they're hiding themselves, they're moving around. And people aren't noticing, but they're like sitting there dancing and stuff. And there's like multiple shots. There's even a back shot where you can see the crouching problem getting closer and closer to this group of mobsters, and it's like this danger's just coming, and it's coming in the form of mimes, which we all hate mimes. So, and then they murder him. They kill. Joker kills the guy with a pen. It freaking works. Then you get the other great scene is that famous the money scene, which is debatable. That scene. I have some problems with that scene, but that's only because of future stuff, not past. But that's such an epic scene where they're playing that whole scene where Joker's bouncing around, and you have that the bat jet that flying around, all the noise, all just everything about that is just working. Even the sound effects is amazing. It's some of the best film work I think out there. Period. See, my biggest fight was what would be the biggest citizen. Some people say that the original Superman is Citizen Kane of superhero movies. I know it's this one. In my opinion, this is the best. The film work in this is so well done. They did such a good job. The lighting, the way the body movement, and even though some of that was accidental because Michael Keaton couldn't move his head certain directions, he had to turn his whole body. By him doing that, that created some stuff, some movements and stuff. The fighting in it is also really good. It's not perfect, but it's good enough for something like this. This was really well done then too, and the music complements it almost perfectly. Now let's get to the story. Probably the biggest thing about this movie. So, our story begins with a robbery. These two criminals steal from a family. And as they're sitting there counting their ill gotten gains on a rooftop, we get the first introduction of Batman. Like, they don't take long. Like that beginning intro where they play the badass music as it's traveling through what looks like a cave, and as you slowly see the bat single come on up. That's pretty badass, by the way. And then we get the first introduction of Michael Keaton's Batman. And fuck, not only is this intimidating, but they shoot him and he gets up like a horror movie villain, like a monster, and then he kicks the crap out of the bad guys. Scares him silly. You get a reporter that's talking to Eckhart, which I believe became a staple after this franchise after this movie. I think he became something after the fact. And Eckhart's secretly working for the mob. Then we cut to Jack Vance, aka Jack Nicholson, aka the Joker. I'm not spoiling anything. It's an old movie. You should you should know this by. So Jack is being a complete douchebag. Sleeping with the girlfriend, mouthing off to the cop and the paid off bribed cop, mouthing off to the mob boss, and the mob boss has had enough. So he decides he's going to betray him. Then we cut to the reporter, our reporter friend, and our love interest, Vicky Vale. When I was a kid, I hated Vicky Vale. And I shouldn't have hated Vicky Vale. I really liked Catwoman, but that could be other reasons. Looks left, looks right. This character is interesting because she works as a love interest and she works as a way of us revealing Batman's origin story. Because at the time, Batman's origin story really wasn't as pronounced as it is now. Like I can ask a guy who's never heard of I could ask someone who's maybe only lightly heard. They'll be able to tell you the origin story. Vicky is kind of the outsider in their little group here. Now, they go to this area to Wayne Manor, and there's a casino going on at Wayne Manor, basically a donation casino for the people. And Wayne's a philanthropist. The guy's using his money to help the poor, the sick, and secretly fund his bat crusade against crime. Reporter guy is looking for Batman. He wants to find the secret Batman. And then there's criminals are saying, he drinks blood like a vampire. There's even a little Easter egg that Bob Kane puts in there. It's kind of fun. A little love letter to the comics. Now, they finally run into Bruce Wayne. And this is where Michael Keaton, like I said before, he plays a good Bruce Wayne. He's snarky. He's a little bit of a wise ass, but he works really good in this. And my favorite thing is they meet him in this armory with all this armor and stuff. And he actually says, "Well, it's Jap. They're going through. Well, what's this armor? Well, it's Japanese. Well, I bought it." And there's this little joke here where they have a little thing between the one reporter, Vicky Vale, and Bruce Wayne. And there's a great moment in there where he's like, "Hey, yeah. So how many bottles of wine? Six." And he's like asking these two guys about that, these two reporters. And then he goes, "Well, okay, I gotta go. I want you to help give Vicky Vale my number and give him a grant." And he walks away. That is so good. It's kind of funny because Batman, Bruce Wayne uses this to secretly record all the police and stuff, so he can gather information. So he's secretly trying to figure out how to get rid of the mobsters too. So once the mobsters are going to this is it Ace Chemicals? I'd have to watch that again. I'm pretty certain it's Ace Chemicals. They go to Ace Chemicals to get the secret documentation that's hiding in there. Now, when the mob boss sends Jack away, he says a very cunning moment in there. "You're my number one guy," and it's kind of funny because Jack Nicholson later he kind of ad libs a little bit, and he says to this character, the famous character, the greatest character of all time, Bob, his henchman, and he'll go, "You're my number one guy," and it's like Bob's fun. I like Bob. And so Bob and his little mobster crew are trying to get out of this area. Now that they realize they've been set up. And the police are trying to kill Jack. But then, Commissioner Gordon shows up and goes, "No, this is my show. You catch them alive if you can. You know, catch them alive." And so this starts a fight between the mobsters, the police, and now Batman, who appears. This has the unfortunate thing where Jack, being the psychopath he has to kill Eckhart. So he takes a shot at Eckhart and kills him. Even though he could have escaped. He had an opportunity to escape, but he decided not to. And because of that, Jack gets unfortunately caught by Batman and falls into the goo, turning him into the Joker. The Joker then shows up at the mob boss, murders him in a hysterical way as, Jack Nicholson is laughing along like a psychopath, which is great because he seems to have gotten the Cesar Romero laugh at. He kind of does it really well. And it's so good. And it's kind of intimidating, almost scary in a lot of ways. I wouldn't want to be like, for me, how old I was at the time, I think I would have been okay with this, but looking at it now, if I was younger, this might have given me nightmares. Especially the infamous scene, which I remember there was a kid in the theater at the time when when the Joker is talking to all the mob bosses, he kills one of them with an electric buzzer. And as he's murdering him with the electric buzzer, this goes kind of nasty. And I remember that scene where I saw a couple kids cover their eyes. Like, they did not want to see this. And great visual effect. So, cut to a romance interest with Bruce Wayne and Vicky Vale. They kind of build something. I kind of like how they start it where it's kind of a bad date where they're on separate sides of this large table. And then they get close to each other. They have a small dinner in the kitchen area. It almost looks like they're in the butler suite. And that works out. I kind of like some of the joking references. They sleep together. She sees him hanging upside down, which is a weird thing. I guess he was working out, doing a workout. And then they kind of leave together. She leaves. He's like, "Well, I'm going to be busy for the next couple days." And she's like, "Oh, okay." And then she finds out Alfred kind of spills the beans because Alfred's, trying to get Bruce some bat babies. Best way to put it. He wants bat grandchildren, okay? So, cut to more Joker as he's planning his little violence scene. We get an interesting moment where there's a great scene with Michael Keaton laying two flowers down, which I think this actually puts a lot of people didn't realize the Batman backstory back then. I don't remember it being as well known as it is now. And that backstory really takes a huge indication of this, like a sad moment. So she wants to figure out why Vicky Vale wants to figure out why'd he do that and why'd he had such a look in his eyes. That's a great moment. Now, the Joker kind of wants to have a relationship with Vicky Vale because he's nuts. That's the only way to put it. The Joker's kind of insane. And so he's like, yeah, okay, I want to hook up with this girl. So he thinks he fakes a message to Vicky Vale to set up a date for this museum moment, which has one of the most fun moments in there where it just him and his Joker crew dancing to music. And it just, Jack Nicholson, you know what? I don't know how much he liked this movie. I don't know how much he feels about stuff. Because, Jack's kind of a weird guy. But it looks like he was having a fucking blast. This entire movie, he looks like he's having so much fun. You get a really gruesome moment with that he kind of tortured the girlfriend of the mob boss in a really gruesome, like he messed with her face and burned her face and stuff, which is kind of fucked up. He burned her face with acid. And, which is kind of funny because there's a lot of references to her being a supermodel. And then Batman appears. We get our first big fight against the bad guys and the good guy, which gets a flea moment. Batman beats him up, and he leaves. Now the reason he goes to he brings Vicky Vale to the Batcave is to inform on the Joker's evil plot, because the Joker has decided that he starts his first Joker gas stuff where he creates the allergic reaction that gets everyone their messed up faces. I should have talked about that scene a little earlier, but this is kind of a light recap. So that happens where he explains to her, and then he bat roofies her and gets his pictures back, and then she reveals, okay, this is what's happening with the chemicals, and this pisses off the Joker even more, but he still wants to hook up with Vicky Vale. Bruce Wayne is having conversations with Alfred about hooking up and telling her the truth, which you get a fun moment where Bruce kind of talking to Vicky about their relationship, and then the Joker kind of butts in on them, and then the Joker says something to him, and the second he hears it, he goes, wait a minute, I've heard that before. It registers in his brain, and we get the emotional truth that he might know who the Joker is, and that this is something that's actually come up a couple times, not always, but it comes up sometimes. The Joker is secretly, the Joker is the man who actually killed Batman's parents, which is a great reveal. And this actually traveled through the comics after the fact. Now, cut to some of the coolest visual effects out there. I mean, this has one of the greatest visual effects. When the vehicle goes in, they shoot down, he blows a hole through the gas thing, he smashes through, and then he puts on the shields and then drops the bomb, and then all the bombs are going off as the vehicle's driving through. That's cool. And then Joker's like, you didn't catch me. And then we get a fun dancing moment with Jack Nicholson just looking like he's having a fucking blast. Then we get some more visual effects. And the Batjet. That is so cool. Especially that moment with the moon. I don't care. I know some people go, that's like, oh, that wouldn't be like that. Fuck off. I don't care. It's awesome. It's amazing. Then we lead up with the Batjet getting taken down with an elephant gun, which is kind of cool. And then we get the big fight sequence between the Joker and Batman as he's taking out his henchmen, then finally takes out the Joker. Then we get the most controversial thing of this movie nowadays, which is kind of weird. The infamous Joker death. He kills the Joker. I think it works for what this movie was doing. That's my personal opinion. Leave a comment if you guys feel that way. Cut to a awesome scene where Batman's sitting above, staring at the bat signal. Bam, bam, wham, thank you, ma'am. Amazing movie. Cut, print. Awesome. So, we're going to kind of talk about how I feel about this movie and what I think and and give it a score. So, this is by far the most impactful comic book movie of all time. Period. I don't think a lot of people say, oh no, this is literally like Star Wars with blockbusters. Because let's be honest, the summer blockbuster in Star Wars, that's what made Star Wars so amazing. I would say Indiana Jones was also really... What Indiana Jones did for adventure movies, what this movie did for comics is still felt today. I won't ever say that Superman, the original Reeves Superman, was not impactful for the industry of comic book movies, but that walked so Batman could run. This is Citizen Kane for comics. This is the Citizen Kane. You have everything in here. You have mystery. You have intrigue. You have every little bit of fun in this movie. Action. Cool effects that still hold up today. That Batjet thing still works. That even the sound that it makes, that works. You have music that still holds up today. This is an amazing movie. This is a 10 out of 10. This fucking movie's perfect. I know this is partially nostalgia talking, but I don't care. This is 10 out of 10. This movie is awesome. I would say that this movie should be a benchmark for comic movies. Unfortunately, it's not. It seems to be the Avengers and the witty comebacks of Guardians of the Galaxy that seems to be what made it. But this should be a benchmark. This is one of the greatest comic book movies of all time, and it's one of the most impactful movies for comics of all time. This is epic. I absolutely love. And I'd like to thank everybody who listens to me rant about this. I hope I didn't make this too confusing. I was trying to figure out how I was going to do the story without ruining it. And at the same time, I'm like, God, this is a hard movie to... I didn't want to break it down too much, but at the same time, I'm going to have to break it down. I just gave myself a whole lot of editing work. Please like, subscribe, and we will see you next time on Orc War Chief Reviews. Have a good one.